affiliated, whether you're a current student, an incoming student, alumni, faculty, we really don't care. We just want you to get involved and benefit from other people's perspectives. We want you to grow with our community, get to know people, grow your network. And then finally, we want you to create and iterate on user-centered solutions. And I'll be getting into what that means in a bit. If you're new here and you weren't able to join any of the past sprints, we do have all of our workshops up on the website, which is design@columbia.com. There's at the top, there's a tab that says session 1, and if you click on that, underneath that, we have all of our pre-recorded workshops, from things like accessible design, visual design, finding your MVP, really, really good stuff all there. We've also linked out to them in our Figma sprint kit. So I encourage you to watch those if you want to learn a bit more. So what are you working towards over the next 2 weeks? Some of you might have just signed up and been like, this sounds really cool, but I don't actually know what I'm doing. Hopefully you have been assigned a team, and that team has chosen a prompt out of the 2 prompts that we have got going for this sprint, and I'll remind you what they are in a moment. But what you will end up doing is researching and deciding exactly which pocket of the community, of the Columbia community, you want to design for, and deliver a high fidelity prototype of your minimum viable product by the end of the sprint. So you will need to consider the needs of your users at each stage of the sprint and ensure your MVP is user-centered and your design decisions are driven by research. And we'll be making sure that you do that as long as you follow kind of our steps and our deliverables and get feedback from your mentor along the way. So just as a reminder, I've got the prompts and the backgrounds here, but I realize it looks really text heavy right now. So the first prompt is about designing an experience that allows mentors and mentees to discover each other. So examples of mentorships that maybe your team wants to think about are upperclassmen mentors, mentoring first years, helping them adjust to university life. Maybe you want to think about industry and career mentors and helping students, you know, upskill and grow their network. Maybe you want to think about identity-based mentors to kind of empower and grow those communities. Like I said before, if this will work, you need to research and decide exactly which pocket of the community you want to design for. So these are just examples that I have here. Feel free to choose whichever example speaks to your group. But just make sure that you have an exact user in mind, an exact community in mind that you want to kind of design a solution for. I won't go into the background. You can read this. We'll be sharing the slides out afterwards, and hopefully you've already read a little bit about the background, as this was in the sign-up form. Prompt 2 is about career options and understanding your career options, exploring them in a way that makes sense to you. So we want you to design an experience that helps students explore opportunities for careers. These opportunities might include volunteer work, internships, whether that's full-time, part-time, remote, any time of year, pre-professional organizations, whether those are on or off campus, undergraduate research, informational interviews, on-site visits for a time that isn't affected by COVID. There are so many ways that you can explore and find career opportunities, and we want you to, again, think about what channel, what community it is that you want to design for, and kind of find a solution within that smaller area. And you should also keep in mind that students have differing needs and priorities when exploring career paths, including financial stability, location of work, further study requirements, prestige, etc., etc. Hopefully you will get a good idea of what those needs are once you carry out some user interviews and get to know your user really well. I won't go over the background again. Okay, so the schedule. What are we going to be doing over the next 2 weeks? How is it going to run? So we'll be meeting on Fridays. Currently, we're in this project meeting. It's probably not going to run until 1 p.m. Just so you know. And none of them, actually this one will run until 1 p.m. But the next one probably won't run until 1 p.m. We'll run a little bit short, let you off early. So we'll have deliverables due on Tuesdays and Fridays. There are 4 sets of deliverables. And we've kind of broken this down into 2 weeks. So in the first week, we'll be thinking about what is a design sprint, what is user-centered design, what and how should I research my user and problem space, and how do I distill my research into useful insights? And your deliverables will be related to that, and there'll be your research deliverables will be due on Tuesday, and your research synthesis deliverables will be due on Friday. And then next week, this time next week, we'll be meeting again, and I'll be going through all of this. How do I ideate effectively? What is a prototype and how do I make one? How do I test if my prototype works? And how should I sell my product's journey? So then your ideation and prototyping deliverable will be due Tuesday, and then your testing and iteration deliverable will be due Friday. And then by that point, if you have enjoyed what you've done, if you're feeling confident, we would love for you to join us in the project showcase. And each team will get around 5 minutes to just walk us through your design journey, explain your design decisions, tell us about the insights you found, tell us about the challenges that you had, kind of just sell your product to us in a really fun and casual way, and just show off what you've been able to achieve over the 2 weeks that are to come. So this is the schedule. If you have any questions about the schedule, pop them in the chat. We have a Q&A at the end, so we'll be able to get to those afterwards. So what are your exact deliverables for this week? If you've done a sprint with us before, you might feel quite comfortable and familiar with this already. If you haven't, do not worry, I'm about to tell you how to do them. So for Tuesday, those are your research deliverables. You're going to carry out 5 interviews for your project with your targeted users. You're going to complete a competitor analysis table, and then you're going to submit 3 how might we statements. And then I've got a link here. If you submit a Google slide to this link here, it's Google Assignments, we'll just have a copy of that available for your mentors to check in. But we also ask that you send a copy to your mentor, as sometimes people struggle with Google Assignments. Next Friday, your research synthesis deliverable, so you'll be working on this later on in the week, is at least one of the following: is a journey map, affinity diagram, stakeholder map, and personas. You're welcome to do more than one. If you're not sure which one to do, that's a good time to talk to your mentor and be like, hey, what do you think is a good method for our team, our context, kind of our team skills and all of that. Again, you've got a link here to submit your slides, or your Figma link, whatever it is, just submit it here and we'll have a copy of that available. Figma, I'm mentioning Figma, and some of you might not know what that is. It's a design software. It's we hope it's kind of beginner friendly, at least I found it kind of intuitive. If you've ever used Photoshop, I think it's a lot easier than Photoshop. And most importantly, it's free with your .edu email. So when I send out this deck, please make sure that you hop to this slide and that you verify your student account on Figma. If you don't verify it, you won't get all those premium kind of features, and you won't be able to do what we want you to do. And we also have a sprint template, and I'll show you that a little bit later, maybe in the Q&A, for those of you who might not know what Figma even looks like. And that is basically, it has resources, it has templates, you just fill them in for all of the deliverables. Feel free to use them if you want to use them. If you have done this before and you want to create your own, we welcome you to do that as well. They're just there to kind of give you a little helping hand if you need it. So we operate primarily on Slack. So we have a few channels going. We have 2-week sprint, which hopefully all of you are on. If you are not on it yet, and if you are not on our Slack at all, get on our Slack and then join hashtag 2-week sprint, as this is where we will be announcing all sprint details. We'll be sending out Zoom links, we'll be sending out calendars, your mentors will be talking to you. That's where you can ask for feedback, where you can share relevant resources. That's really kind of the hub of this sprints community, and we want you to engage with it as much as possible. Other things that you can do is create private team channels. You don't have to, but we welcome you to spend as much time as Slack as you care to. And there you can coordinate with your team members, and your design mentor may have already set up a channel for kind of all of their teams to chat and get to know each other as well, and send out mentor related links as well. Oh, and if you aren't on the Slack yet, you can get to the Slack by going to design@columbia.com. There's a link there. Troubleshooting. So we recognize that doing a sprint is not always easy peasy, lemon squeezy, smooth sailing. So if your teammates aren't responding, please reach out to our community lead, Nina, on Slack to figure out options. You should also bring this up with your mentor. They might loop in Nina, or Nina might loop in them, whichever kind of comes first, and we can figure something out. If you are struggling with Figma, we have an Intro to Figma workshop up on our website, and we also have, there's also the Figma Basics playlist on YouTube. I think each video is like 4 minutes long. It's super easy and digestible and easy to understand. And your mentors all also feel comfortable in Figma, are happy to help you out there if you need it. So feel free to ask them as well. And when I send this out, I will include links to the Figma workshop and Figma Basic playlist, as I realize they are not linked out right now. And finally, if you're feeling overwhelmed by deliverables or the design process or anything at all, let your design mentor know, and you can work together to find a solution, whether that's breaking down your timeline for your deliverables, helping to delegate with your team, whatever it is, we're here to support you and make sure that you kind of carry this sprint through and can learn from it. And then we have an upcoming workshop on Sunday. So Srini has volunteered to talk to us about AR and VR design, which is augmented reality and virtual reality. Sorry for just jumping to the acronyms. That will be on Sunday, so in 2 days' time, exact same time, from 12 to 1 p.m. There'll be time for a Q&A. She'll be talking about really cool upcoming stuff. So definitely come along to that, bring questions, and get stuck in there. So let's move on to the design sprint, talking about research and research synthesis. How do you carry out the deliverables that we've set for you this week? Before I move on, does anyone have any questions about anything that I've gone over so far? If not, I'll move on. Okay, cool. First things first, what is the design sprint? Oh, I just realized we have a question. Can you share slides link? Yes, I will do that, but after this call. A design sprint is a process through which we find a user's problems and design user-centered solutions, which leads me to what is user-centered design? Before I go into how might we statement, a lot of the time businesses work towards kind of business-centered goals. They want to increase profits by 20%. They want to, you know, move the needle with their revenue, or they want to lower costs, or they want to have a certain share of the market. These are all very much business driven and not centered around the user. And what we really want to encourage you to do with this sprint is to think about who you're designing for and what do they really need? What is going to be useful in their life? What is going to make their life easier? What is going to delight them, surprise them? And basically just sort out whatever problems that they have, whether it's in the mentorship field or the career field, whatever it is that you're designing for. So how do we go about making sure that we are thinking about our users? How do we frame approaching that problem? So we use how might we statements. How might we statements frame the problem space, and they serve as a kickoff for our design and exploration process. So what you want to do with a how might we statement is create a statement that is both broad enough that there is a wide range of solutions, but narrow enough that you have some helpful creative boundaries. And I'll show you an example. So this example is design a new vase to increase sales, which is very business centered. It's about increasing sales. It's not really telling us about who the user is or what kind of their interaction is going to be, versus, for example, how might we help dads aged 30 to 45 enjoy flowers in the home? So this is now thinking about what is the purpose of a vase? Why do we have a vase at all? Maybe a vase isn't the best vessel through which to enjoy flowers. And then suddenly this new way to frame a question opens up a whole world of opportunities through which you can kind of explore your problem space, explore your users' problems, find new ways to design solutions, and basically just have a really awesome user-centered time. So I'll go through some examples, and I realize we're running a little bit behind on time, so I'll speed through them. This is from session 1. So the main how might we prompt was how might we redesign Spotify to streamline features that cultivate connection while reducing user frustration and friction. And then I'll just read through the first one, which is focusing on community. How might we help Spotify users who love to share music more easily do so with less friction and less reliance on third-party apps? So that's one way that you can kind of refine your how might we from going to something broad to something that's more centered on community. I'll leave you to read the rest in your own time if you want examples. There are more here for a dating app, I will actually hand over to Nina now. Hopefully she's in this call.
Yeah, hi everyone. I hope you can see me. My video and audio are different, so hopefully we can just vibe with that. Okay, so what and how should I research my user and the problem space? Next slide. Okay, rule number 1 is you are not your user. I'm sure everyone has heard this rule. Even if you are interviewing other students for something that you want to hear Columbia students' viewpoints on, and you are a Columbia student, it's best to just talk to another Columbia student because you will probably be biased with your own project. It's your baby. So that's kind of just rule number 1. Next slide. So user interviews. If you are in a background of anthropology or sociology, I'm a sociology major myself. So I have had experience doing interviews, and I can already tell you interviews rely on exploring emotions, understanding users' goals, assessing their needs. It's really where the user empathy kind of comes into all of this. Next slide. So to find interviewees, there are 2 things you can do. The first is you can ask on our Slack, reach out on feedback. That's kind of the whole Slack with 600 plus people, or you can ask people from the 2-week sprint. They might be more responsive. Be very direct with your ask and your request and who you want to interview. So for example, I need to speak with students with emotional support animals. Can anyone connect me? If the user themselves does not have an emotional support animal, maybe they'll know someone who does. So that's a good way to phrase it. Next slide.
And I'll just hop in here and say, we understand that sometimes sourcing interviewees can be difficult. So we've actually set up an interview, like a ready-made interview pool that you can book appointments with over the next 2 days, just to kind of help reach that 5 interview number. So each team will be allowed to sign up for 1 or 2 interview slots. They're with people who are suitable for either the career or the mentor interview pool. It doesn't matter who you pick. And then you can interview them, ask them questions, and hopefully just get started with that interview process, as we realize reaching out to people can sometimes take a few days to organize. And we want to make sure that you can meet your deliverables on time. When I send out the deck, I will include a link to that here, and I'll also send it on the Slack on #2weeksprint.
Okay, so Alexi has come up with these kick-ass 10 points, but I would like to highlight a couple of them. The first is always ask for consent and record to capture quotes. If you are doing a user test virtually, you can screen record. The second top tip is do not ask leading questions or directed questions. Try to stay away from yes/no questions. Stick to semi-structured interviews where you have a certain set of questions, but also ask open-ended questions. You can ask follow-up questions. You don't have to stick to the script necessarily. Also, embrace silence. If someone is not saying a lot, that's okay, let them speak. I know this is one tip I had to personally learn because I love talking. I just have to sit with silence and wait for people to come up with answers. People are going to want to please you, people are going to want to be nice, and so you have to take things with a grain of salt. So key quotes, recording your interview, going back to it. These are all important things. Next slide. This is an example. Again, you can read this in your own time, but we liked the way that they structured it. Again, going with the fun Spotify theme, they really got at the key quotes from the interviews and how it was relevant to their project. Next slide. Okay, secondary research, exploring the problem space. There's this quote, trying to design without knowing the problem space is like trying to hit a bullseye without knowing what the target is. So what are other ways that you can explore the problem space? The first is a competitive analysis. So the competitive analysis is a synthesis of features, strengths, weaknesses of current and potential competitors. What are the existing solutions? What are the alternatives? What are they doing right? What are they doing wrong? What are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? SWOT. Next slide. So direct competitors are the ones who offer the same or very similar set of features to your current or future customers. For example, if you're doing a video conferencing app like Google Meet, then Zoom would be a direct competitor. Indirect competitors are the ones who offer a similar set of features, but to a different customer segment, which means indirect competitors are solving the similar problem, but for a different customer base. For example, House Party, in the same example, is kind of the same goals, but different customer base, maybe a younger crowd, for example. This is a great example, again, of a table of a competitor analysis. They did the features, the key features, friends, followers, podcasts, and used the play button to show what they are, that Spotify does that, and the pause button to show that this is missing or absent. Next. Again, a great example, different things. They focused on features and then strengths and weaknesses as well. Having everything on a table is super, super useful. One top tip I have for you is if you're exploring other apps that are direct or indirect competitors, always look at the reviews on the app stores, because you'll find that people who have rated the app 1 star have very direct problems with the app, and those can be a form of opportunities or weaknesses. Also look at the good stuff.
And I'll just hop in here and say, both of these competitor analysis tables are really different. So the Spotify-based one, there are 2 different formats. They kind of play with the Spotify theme and get creative with that. Whereas this one is more kind of informative, detail-oriented. It's kind of approaching it more with that SWOT analysis. Of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So feel free to kind of explore ways that you want to present it, kind of think about the details that you want to present as well, and what is most helpful for you as you go through this journey.
So how do I distill my research into useful insights? This is where you're really getting down to, as you can see, the squiggle, the mess of everything you figured out, to something that is really, really specific. Next slide. Every design project is different. Choose the method that works best for your project. I know that when I was kind of still new to this, I still am kind of, I wanted to do like a journey map, and I wanted to do user personas and everything without thinking about how that solution is tailored to my project. I just wanted to do it because it looked pretty and it looked like something interesting to do. So again, focus your resources, since this is a 2-week sprint, and choose the methods that work best for your project. Next slide. So journey maps, what are journey maps? If you haven't heard of it before, a journey map is basically a visualization of the process that a user goes through in order to accomplish a goal. It tells the story of the user's experience from start to finish. Next slide. Some examples are learning about the shuttle bus. So you can see the user starts from here, learning about the shuttle bus, and then the user can go in different directions, but then this is going in kind of, for example, for me, one thing that I did in my project I can think of is I was thinking of an online label scanner, because I was doing a project on sustainable fashion. And when I was outlining the user's journey, I realized that when someone is shopping, to go through like actually pulling out their phone and scanning a label is something that is inorganic to them and is kind of an added step to the user's journey. And I realized that an app that would ask the user to scan a QR code or scan a label is not necessarily the most organic, since that's not part of the user's journey. So this can help you kind of come up with your MVP. It can come up with what is best for your user, really focusing on your user. Yeah, again, this is a wonderful example of the action, key quotes, key takeaways, opportunities. You can see how it goes up and down. Sometimes you can also add emojis or emotions to mark what the user's journey has been.
Yeah, and I'll just hop in again and say that there is no set way to do a user journey map. We're providing you with a template that looks a lot like this one. But if you're looking at this and thinking, oh my gosh, what is going on? I don't understand this. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. Please don't worry. Journey maps can be as simple as a flow diagram like this. They can be more text heavy like this. They can include fun comics of bees because you're creating something called Speller Bee like Nick did. So talk to your mentor, figure out a journey map level that is comfortable for your team's abilities, comfortable for your team if you are going to do a journey map, and know that there is no set way to do one. We're just providing you with different examples to kind of inspire you and hopefully put you on your way.
Yeah, so again, there are different aspects to a journey map. You can target the user's emotional journey, the functional journey. You can have quotes, problems, what are your opportunities? Okay, so journey maps aren't your only synthesis tools. There are other ways. For example, Affinity Diagrams. Affinity Diagrams is a tool that gathers large amounts of language data, for example, ideas, opinions, issues that you gather from interviews or other of the primary research that you did, and organizes them into groupings based on their natural relationships. So you can do this with taking a lot of Post-it notes. This is a virtual Post-it note, and you can see the groupings. They've grouped it based on themes or other sorts of things that just makes it easier to visualize and synthesize the insights.
So I'll kind of just explain what's going on here is you start with all of the Post-it notes and you kind of group them in a way that makes sense. And based on these groups, themes are going to come out, insights are going to come out, you're going to find patterns, trends. It might not make sense looking at something like this, which is very visual and actually you can't see the words very well. But trust me when I say that when you do interviews and you interview 5 people about the same thing, trends are going to come out. They are not all going to have completely different responses. And you're going to find things that just tend to come up more often than others. And it's up to you to kind of group them together, figure out what the most important ones, and just keep distilling in this process of how can I group these together? What is the common point in these 2 problems? What is driving the user's problem here? What is driving the user's motivation or frustration, all of that stuff. And again, if this doesn't make sense, your design mentor can help you walk through this with you.
This is my personal favorite. I love personas. Personas are fictional characters which we create based upon our research in order to represent the different user types that might use our designs. So for example, there's Sarah. And every time you talk about what would Sarah do? You know, would Sarah use this? Would Sarah be applicable to this? So really like this helps you kind of visualize your user in a much better way. You can have a little backstory, you can have Sarah's goals, motivations, frustrations. There are many, many resources and templates available online for free where you have these user templates, user persona templates, and you can just fill them out as you wish. Having a picture is always nice to humanize the persona. Okay, stakeholder maps. This is also important, very important. Identify the various stakeholders and their relationship with the potential future solution. It's very important to think about your users, but also kind of who your users aren't. That is, who are the people who are going to be affected by this directly or indirectly. So in this is a great example where you can see the core stakeholders. For the shuttle bus example, there's the Columbia students and faculty. They're directly affected by this, the Columbia transportation team, the bus shuttle service provider. And then you can also see there are direct competitors and then indirect stakeholders and indirect stakeholders. For example, the MTA, local officials, the local community. These are also very, very important stakeholders that you might not directly think about because they're not your core stakeholders.
So that was kind of a whistle-stop tour of how to complete the deliverables that you've got due for this week. I've got a slide here again reminding you of what they are. You might be like, oh my gosh, that was so much content that just got dropped on us in the space of half an hour. Don't worry, this is being recorded. You can watch it back if you want. We're sending out the slides. You can look through those if you want. We've got other workshops where we've spoken about this kind of in greater detail at a slowed pace if you want to do that. And there's also your design mentors who can help you through this process. I'll open it up for a Q&A now. And what we'll be doing, and then in about 5 minutes or whenever questions end, we'll actually be giving you time to meet your design mentors. For some of you, your design mentors might not be available. I think Aisha or Emily, if you could send the Google Doc out in Google Doc in the chat. Yeah, so Emily just sent a Google Doc in the chat. There you can see whoever your mentor is, go to their Google Hangouts link in about 5 minutes. And there's just a time for you to get to know your mentor, talk about your hopes, kind of figure out your project details, get to know your team if you haven't met them yet, or just hang out for a little bit. It's just a short casual time to kind of introduce you to your mentor and make sure you're all on the same page. But first, does anyone have any questions? Does anyone want me to go over anything again? Any sprint logistics questions? Whatever it is, I'm happy to hang out here and answer them.
Any chance we could send out the slides now, if they're ready, or a version of them?
Yes, I can do.
That would be helpful in getting started.
Yeah. Emily, can you also send out the mentor video chat links on 2 week sprint?
I think I should just did that.
Already done.
Oh, okay, awesome. Thank you. Any questions?
There's a question about the time commitment on projects on average.
Oh yeah, okay, cool. What would be the time commitment to the projects on average? So each deliverable, we're expecting you to work somewhere between 1 and 3 hours per day on your deliverables. This number will depend on whether you're working in a team, kind of how efficiently you work, if you have any experience, if you get distracted, like I do a lot of the time. So minimum 1 hour a day. Maybe you want to figure out a way to delegate with your team members or divide the work in a way that makes sense to you. But yeah, no one should be staying up overnight. No one should be losing sleep over these deliverables. And if you are feeling overwhelmed or feeling like you can't handle it, then speak to your design mentor and we can figure out options. And you said there is a link in the slides to sign up for Columbia student interviews. Yes, so we have a kind of a pre-made interview pool ready just to get you kick-started. You can sign up for a maximum of 2 interviews. I will send that link out in the Slack. It's actually just on the Design at Columbia calendar. So if I've already sent that out in other places, if you have access to that, then it's already on there. I'll send it out again. And I'll also put it in the slides. And speaking of slides, here is a link to the slides. We'll also send it out on Slack. Oh. Okay, cool. Any other questions? If not, then make sure to check out the Google Doc that Emily Lowe has sent in either the Zoom chat or the Slack. That's with the list of video links that you can go meet your mentor. And if your mentor is unavailable, I think you've been assigned to a different mentor for right now. Just like come hang out, come meet us, let's chat. But thank you all for coming and see you all in these Google Hangouts in a few minutes.
Thanks, Laura. All right, I'm ending this Zoom call now.
Cool.
So everyone find their mentors. You're going to a new happy Zoom home on Google. Okay, see ya.
Bye.